The radical power of being an open book. Why vulnerability is the new strength. Welcome. Take a breath with me. Right here, right now, let's collectively exhale the expectations we've been carrying, the masks we've been wearing, the armor we've been hiding behind. Today, I want to share transformative insights that came from my profound conversation with Shameka Benn, a visionary whose work is fundamentally reshaping how we think about vulnerability, authenticity, and love as leadership tools. Shameka isn't just another thought leader, she's a revolutionary force dismantling the walls we build around our hearts and minds. Through her guidance, thousands have found the courage to step into their authentic selves, creating ripples of transformation across communities, businesses, and political landscapes. What struck me most about Shameka was her unwavering commitment to being what she calls an open book, someone unafraid to be loved, someone who doesn't judge others. In a world that often rewards armor over openness, her philosophy isn't just refreshing, it's revolutionary. Have you ever noticed how we're taught to hide our struggles, to present a polished version of ourselves, to judge before we understand? We've created a culture that celebrates strength defined as stoicism, success measured by how little help we needed, and leadership viewed as having all the answers. But what if we've been getting it all wrong? What if true power lies in being vulnerable enough to be seen? I remember sitting across from Shameka, watching her eyes light up as she explained, when you're an open book, you give others permission to be the same. That statement lingered with me for days, challenging everything we've been conditioned to believe about protection and power. For high achieving Black women, especially, those who've spent years in survival mode, leading teams, raising families, holding down households, carrying communities, this message hits differently. The expectation to be strong, to never falter, to always have it together becomes exhausting. And in that exhaustion, we lose pieces of ourselves. This is why Shameka's philosophy resonates so deeply. It's not just about vulnerability for vulnerability's sake, it's about a spiritual, emotional, and mental recalibration that allows us to shift from constantly grinding to finally grounding in joy, in peace, and softness, and in self prioritization. Let me share three powerful stories that illustrate this transformation. In Louisville, Kentucky, Councilwoman Shameka Parrish Wright faced a daunting challenge. She was leading efforts to endorse Department of Justice recommendations aimed at creating safer communities, a politically charged issue that invited intense scrutiny and resistance. In spaces where vulnerability is typically seen as weakness, especially for Black women in politics, she made a radical choice. Instead of armoring up with rehearsed talking points or defensive posturing, she became transparent about her motivations. She shared personal stories about why these reforms mattered to her. She spoke from a place of compassion rather than fear or anger. She became, in her words, an open book. The result? She built coalitions across diverse groups that seemed impossible before. The resolution passed with broad support. Her openness fostered trust among constituents who had grown cynical about political leaders. By rejecting the notion that leadership requires emotional distance, she demonstrated how being unafraid to be loved can create systemic change. When we lead with love instead of fear, Shameka Ben often says, we create space for others to do the same. This principle extends beyond politics into every sphere of our lives, including our relationship with money. Consider the story of a financial consultant working primarily with Black women entrepreneurs in an industry where people guard their financial struggles like shameful secrets. This consultant took a different approach. She openly shared her own journey with money, the mistakes, the setbacks, the lessons learned. Instead of positioning herself as the flawless expert, she created a practice of mutual vulnerability. She encouraged clients to bring their financial fears into the light, assuring them that shame has no place in the journey toward abundance. The transformation was remarkable. Clients who had been paralyzed by financial shame began tackling issues head on. Businesses that had been stagnating started growing. Testimonials poured in from Black women entrepreneurs who have found not just financial clarity, but newfound confidence. By choosing vulnerability over secrecy, this consultant shifted industry norms from perfectionism toward transparency. More professionals began seeking help early instead of hiding struggles out of fear of judgment. This is what happens when we reject the false dichotomy between strength and softness. We create ripples that extend far beyond our individual experience. The third story takes us to a small business called Positive Vibe Sweet Treats. The owner faced the challenge of entering a saturated market while staying true to personal values around acceptance and positivity. Instead of trying to blend in, they leaned fully into their identity as someone who doesn't judge. They use social media platforms to share their authentic journey, including the challenges, the doubts, the moments of uncertainty. They created custom labeled treats celebrating the uniqueness within their community, rejecting the pressure to conform to industry standards. What happened? They built a loyal customer base who valued this inclusivity. Feedback consistently highlighted how customers felt seen and loved through these personalized products. What began as making treats for friends expanded into a business that celebrates individuality rather than conformity. The founder has since inspired other Black women entrepreneurs to embrace vulnerability and authenticity when building their brands. Their success proves that leading with love for yourself and your community can drive both business growth and social impact. These stories illuminate a profound truth. When we drop the masks, when we stop judging ourselves and others, when we lead with love instead of fear, we don't become weaker. We become more powerful. As Maya Angelou wisely said, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. When we're open books, we create spaces where people feel seen, heard, and valued. This is especially crucial for those of us who have spent years in what Shameka Benn calls survival mode. We've been the strong ones, the dependable ones, the ones who hold it all together. We've worn our capes for so long that we've forgotten they were never meant to be permanent fixtures. The soft girl era isn't about weakness, it's about reclaiming the parts of ourselves we've sacrificed at the altar of strength. It's about understanding that vulnerability requires more courage than stoicism ever did. When Shameka talks about being unafraid to be loved, she's speaking to something profound in our collective experience. Many of us have learned to be afraid of love because love requires openness. Love demands that we show up as our full selves. Love asks us to be seen, and being seen, truly seen, is terrifying when you spend a lifetime hiding behind accomplishments, roles, or carefully constructed personas. But here's the truth: we cannot be loved for who we truly are if we never show who we truly are. This doesn't mean sharing everything with everyone. Boundaries still matter, discernment still matters, but it does mean allowing ourselves to be known by those who have earned our trust. It means rejecting the lie that vulnerability equals weakness. As Brene Brown reminds us, vulnerability is not winning or losing, it's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. This courage transforms not just our personal relationships, but our professional lives as well. When we lead with authenticity, we create cultures where innovation thrives because people aren't afraid to share ideas. We build teams where problems get solved because people aren't hiding challenges. We foster environments where growth happens because feedback flows freely. Love as a leadership tool isn't soft in the dismissive sense. It's soft in the revolutionary sense, like a water that over time reshapes even the hardest stone. So I challenge you today, tear down the walls you've built, remove the armor you've worn, step into the radical power of being an open book. Start with one brave act of vulnerability. Share something you've been hiding, not everything with everyone, but something meaningful with someone who has earned your trust. Watch how that single act of courage creates space for others to do the same. Challenge the systems that demand your stoicism at the expense of your humanity. Question the workplaces that value your productivity over your personhood. Resist the relationships that require your perfection rather than your authenticity. This isn't just about personal transformation, it's about collective liberation. When enough of us refuse to play small, refuse to hide our light, refuse to judge ourselves and others, we create a new culture, a culture where being an open book isn't radical anymore. It's simply how we live. As you leave this space today, I want you to remember your vulnerability is not your weakness, it is your superpower. Your willingness to be seen is not vanity, it is courage. Your openness to love is not naivety, it is wisdom. The world doesn't need more perfect people, it needs more whole people. People brave enough to show their cracks, their scars, their humanity, because it is through those very openings that the light gets in and shines back out to illuminate others. Be an open book. Be unafraid to be loved. Stop judging yourself and others. And watch how that radical choice transforms not just your life, but the world around you. Thank you.